I use your laptop?
Yeah. You got some props?
Yeah, and you got, I think I chatted you the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
You get some. Yeah, try that. Okay, perfect. Hello, my name is Gideon. I'm a developer at The Guardian. We make this Dead Tree product. This is from our US office. I was earlier in the week. We make a weekly edition. We're most well known for that probably in the UK, but we also have a website that I work on. And yeah, I'm going to be talking to you today about this thing called YouTube Player for Publishers. So can you put your hands up if you've heard of the Google Digital News Initiative? Okay. And yeah, keep your hand up if you're based in Europe. Okay, so it's mostly the same people, and because it's a European thing. And so Google wanted to figure out how they could work better with publishers, given a lot of stuff that's been happening in Europe. And that includes giving funding to startups and initiatives they think are interesting in that area. So they've given millions of euros in grants, and also working directly with publishers in a more collaborative way to try and make things that meet their needs. So this thing came out of that initiative. And so what actually is it? Well, it was inspired by their conversations with newsrooms. And there's a whole load of guff in this blog post you can read. This is about everything publicly I can say about this. It's in that blog post. The most important part from our point of view, I guess, is this sentence here, which says it gives publishers the option to control ad formats and ad load on their videos and priority sales rights, which, yeah, embedded importantly on their own sites and applications. So it means we'll host your video, you can serve your own ads on it and keep the revenue, which is a big deal. So how does this look in practice? So I've got an example here. Oh, how did I get into that view? So yeah, this is one of the other Wave 1 partners called France 24. This thing, believe it or not, this is a YouTube player, a normal YouTube player. And there you go, that's the advert stuff, sorry.
This thing we've all done doesn't need to
I
be
can't
a
turn
thing.
it down even.
There's a smart way to stay fresh. Hanes, with Fresh IQ advanced odor protection technology.
Yeah, that's the important shouting advert to you. Yes, so that annoying advert thing, that's like important to the proposition. So there's a whole rev share around that. I'm sorry for assaulting your ears. And yeah, this weird blue YouTube player, that's like kind of skinnable player that's part of the player for publishers. So you can't get this. Only certain whitelisted people in Europe get this thing as part of this initiative. But that's kind of part of it. And there's a few other bits and pieces I can talk about if you're interested. But yeah, that was kind of, from the commercial point of view, that was really important, because what the publishers asked for was, can we have a white label YouTube player? Really, because video is hard. Like at The Guardian, we only had one developer really working on it, so how good an experience can we make compared to YouTube? So yeah, that's an example. So what did we do? We kind of went back to the drawing board and thought about, well, what does video mean? What's our workflow going to be? How does this integrate with what we have? We built this thing. It's on GitHub. It's called Guardian Media Atom Maker. And so each of these are videos. We really call them media atoms. They can go and upload their assets. They can go through some workflow. They can add metadata. And this integrates with a bunch of our systems. So we have like a media asset management system where it stores all the rushes and the project status and metadata about the video. We integrate with that. When they publish a video, it writes to our API, this Atom thing that I'll go into a bit more detail. And then we also talk to YouTube API for publishing there. Yeah, and this is a very high-level architecture diagram, as you can see, but if you're interested, I can I can dive more into what's going on. And that's kind of how it looks on our site. So we're weirdly not using the skinned player that France 24 is, because it doesn't have enough customization options for us right now. But yeah, that's kind of how it looks at the end. In terms of how it looks in our API, sorry, this is a person showing JSON in a presentation, but kind of importantly, the atom thing means something to us, and the important thing is a couple of things I'm going to show you now. So we don't just say plonk a YouTube embed on the page. We say put a media atom with this GUID, and that GUID contains this asset which has this YouTube ID. And that kind of abstraction was really important because a feature we were missing. So YouTube has this concept like publish once. You can never update. You publish once and it's immutable. You can take it down, but you can't have revisions. And for us, so for example, in the Manchester attacks, we like to have a latest thing in the Manchester attacks video. And we embed that in a bunch of places, and we want every time there's a new version for that to emanate everywhere immediately. And that wasn't something YouTube can do. So this atom concept allows us to hack around it. So in our API, they just embed this GUID thing. Like they have a pretty picker from this tool, but in the back end, it's storing it like this, and then they're then hydrating when they make a new version. It updates that YouTube ID, and everywhere picks up the new version, and in the background we take down the old version. So that was the kind of key technical challenge that we worked around with this whole integration. So yes, how does this relate to any text AV stuff at all? So our previous player, we were using like a very old forked version of an open source player, and which didn't have any captioning support. So previously there was no captioning support on site unless we burned it in. And one of the nice things of YouTube is we have the whole YouTube player which has all the support which it has. And so we started kind of using that in different ways. Dan beat me here with the Comic Sans. So I'm very slow to the Comic Sans party, but I still came. But yeah, so what's our current status? So like a lot of publishers, we have these kind of short social videos with burned in custom graphics. We call them dabs, weirdly, in Guardian, but they're like what a lot of other publishers have. Then the next kind of bucket is these kind of news wires or short news features. So this was really interesting. In order to do research for this presentation, I just went around the multimedia department and asked everyone what they're doing. Because we, right now, don't provide them a lot of tooling for this stuff because the YouTube stuff is very new. So part of me coming here is figuring out how we can do this stuff better. But they've hacked a lot of their own crazy solutions, which was interesting. So for short videos, so those generally say up to 90 seconds. These will be, say, from 90 seconds to 3 minutes, 4 minutes, like newswires or short features. They're often using the kind of off-the-shelf YouTube tools. So there's one where you can type the transcript and it kind of pauses and you can jump around. And then given that text, it used the auto-timing feature to make the captions. So they're using that. It's a bit clunky, but they use it. And then they'll often export, say, an SRT from there and import it into YouTube with Facebook, with a certain file name, and then they can reuse it there. Then the next bucket is kind of longer form dramas and documentaries. So we have some like half an hour feature length stuff, and they're generally like a longer turnaround. So for the Wires stuff, it has to be really timely. So they're not willing to block releasing the video and getting captions out. For longer dramas and documentaries, there's a much longer lead time. They're using rev.com. So they commission from there, and then they upload it to all the platforms. And those generally go as well on Amazon Video, for example, which mandates captions as part of being on that platform. So that's kind of where we are. So what's next? Yeah, I have some ideas. One of the main challenges is there's a hinterland here. There are some other videos, say, between 6 and 12 minutes, which, for example, Owen Jones, who's like a political commentator, he does kind of rambly interviews. They're about 6 to 12 minutes. That's one where they just said, it takes too long to type it out. The auto transcription is not good enough, and it's not our style guide, so we have to spend ages correcting it. And so right now we just don't caption those. So trying to think of something that's in that sweet spot where they can be productive at 6 to 12 minutes by any means would be really interesting. In terms of the shorter ones, a lot of their pain point I was talking about yesterday is, and other people have mentioned about, you get some output, but for example, it's not formatted nicely with the speakers, when sentences don't break up correctly, so they spend ages tweaking the output from the auto timing to make it more presentable. So anything we can do there to help separate the fragments out would really help them. And that's it, that's all I got. Thanks. And any questions? Yeah.
Quick one. So you mentioned that the YouTube white label player doesn't have all the customizations. Can you speak a little bit more about
Yeah, so it was just specifically around that the branded colors thing. The skinning is just you give them one hex code and they apply it across your entire site. And it has to have like a white background, like you saw on that France 24 one. So, for example, if your key color is a very light color, like a light color is not going to work with a white background, so it just looks a bit crap. So that's like some of the stuff with feedback, and also like we're working on better native SDKs for apps. So that's something we're working through now to get parity of what we can do right now with native apps with the YouTube platform. Cool. Oh yeah, go on.
Just a quick one. You know, you talked about Owen Jones's rambly 6-minute interviews.
Yes.
Do they want to get the content out so quickly that they don't have time to go in and correct it?
No, it's that. So also those are quite back and forthy interviews. So the auto transcripts they found doesn't work that well. They think they'd spend longer or they think it'd be more efficient to just type it out.
Yeah.
But at 6 to 12 minutes, that's a lot of typing. And so yeah, there's an opportunity space there for either a better tooling or a fast enough, good enough outsourcing or third-party service that gave them something back that's usable. So yeah, it might be an interesting one to think about.
To type it up, you'd think it would take 2 or 3 times the length of the media, right? Then you could align it. You'd be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all busy. None of this is their day job. We've got no dedicated resource for this. Because we're not a broadcaster, we don't, at least as the current legislation stands in UK, we're not obliged to do any captioning. We are aware of it, so we have a accessibility forum, and it's the biggest, one of the biggest feedback that we get is people asking for more captions. But these are all busy producers who have work on multiple things, and they're trading off that versus the other thing that their boss is shouting at them to do.